Okay, so welcome back to the Crafty Nomads Quilted Words class. It's good to be back here. Let us know in the comments where you are joining from. If you didn't come to the first live session, I'm Jo Westfoot from the Crafty Nomad, and it's my hands and my voice that you have been listening to, hopefully already this weekend in the pre-recorded classes. I'm just going to introduce Tracy, who is a helper here at the Crafty Nomad. So Tracy, you want to spotlight your camera as well? There we go. So this is Tracy, and Tracy is keeping an eye on the chat, and she is going to pop any links into the chat that we need, and just answer any questions. Keep an eye on the questions. Let me know what questions are coming in so that I don't have to worry about missing anything that is scrolling through. So do put your questions in there. So thank you very much, Tracy. That is great. So yeah, do put your questions in there as you think of questions. Tonight is for me to go through all the questions that have come in during the weekend. So lots of people have been asking questions. There's some really good questions. And I'm going to run through those so that everybody gets the benefit of the answers, just in case you haven't seen them. So we're going to do that. We're also going to take a look at some of the lovely makes that have been posted in the Facebook group and also in the community in the Quilt Hive portal. And I'm also going to announce the prize winners. But goodness me, my voice has already gone dry, so just have a drink every now and then. Okay, I'm seeing lots of lovely places that are coming up here in the chat, so that's lovely. Canada, Massachusetts, Poland, Wyoming, gosh, loads of different places, Jersey, brilliant. Okay, really good to see. Let me know in the comments section whether you have gotten around to actually making your quilted word yet. We've had 2 days, and it's been quite a big ask to get that done in the 2 days, but some people have managed it, and it's been really great to see. So let me know if it's something you've managed to do already, or perhaps you're planning to do it tomorrow. Let me know in the comments. If you are asking a question, do make sure to write the word question in capitals before the question so that it's easy for Tracy to spot. That would be great. Now, there have been some really lovely comments this weekend in the portal and the Facebook group. You have loved the pre-recorded videos, and for that I am very grateful. So I'm glad they have worked for you and you have found them beneficial. So thank you for all those thank yous. It always is good to get feedback, to know that the videos and the lessons are actually helpful, and that you are learning something. My hope is always that you do learn something new. When we're teaching quilters, you're teaching such a wide variety of abilities that it can be hard sometimes to know that you're kind of giving value to everybody in the room. And I think that, if, even seasoned quilters can get something out of these classes, that's a massive bonus for me. So it's always good to have that feedback. I particularly loved this comment that came in from Helen, and Helen was new to the Crafty Nomad, I think, and she said, thank you for the very clear instructions. I have had my free motion darning foot for several years now, but was too intimidated to actually use it. But now I have. And it is not as half as scary as I thought, and it looks better than I thought it would for my first try. Though she says it is really exhausting on the brain too. She said, I'm happy with my progress so far, but I'll probably continue on another day. But thank you again. And that was just so lovely to read, because so many people tell me that they are frightened of free motion quilting, that they're intimidated by it, that they want to put it off because it just looks too hard. And the main purpose of teaching this class really has been to try and get people over that fear, to realize that it's really not that difficult. Yes, it takes time to get it looking really lovely and to get that stitch length, you know, consistent. But in itself, it's not difficult, you know, and so getting over that barrier first and then spending consistent time practicing is all you need to improve. Okay, so I really hope that this weekend's class has given you an insight into how I teach. If you do like it, then please do pop over to the course page and see if there's anything that takes your fancy. And remember that special link for the Quilt Hive membership with that code in it for a sort of a welcome deal is valid until the 16th of June. Now, you have got that link in any of the emails that I've sent you, so you should have it. But Tracy is going to drop it into the chat box anyway for you now. It's also in the text underneath this video. You'll be able to find it there as well. So I will be sending an email just to remind you the day before, just so you know, you don't forget if it's something you want to do. Okay, let's move on to the questions and the observations. So the way this is going to go is I've got a couple of observations and then I'm going to go through the specific questions that have been raised. I may well be having the demo camera over just to show you some things. And at the end of all of that, there'll be another chance to go through any questions that are coming up in the chat. So Tracy's keeping an eye on those. And if yours gets missed, then just type it in again for us so that we can make sure that we cover everything off. Okay, my first observation was that there were lots and lots of people who were brand new to free motion quilting, and they did an amazing job. And for that, I want to congratulate you, because the next observation, which we often get a lot of, is that some people are really hard on themselves. And when they share their work, they almost always do it by saying there's something wrong with it. And we get this a lot when we go to quilt groups, don't we? We go to quilt group, we see our friends sharing their quilts, and the first thing they do is they point out what's wrong with it. They point out the mistake they made or the bit they don't like, instead of just taking all the lovely compliments and appreciating what they have done, what they've achieved. So, quick reminder, we all start somewhere. We all start at the beginning. We all start having not done this skill before. And I think it's also worth saying it's even harder on people who have sewn and done patchwork perhaps for decades, but have never gone on to doing the free motion quilting. And then they make that step, that leap, if you like, to do free motion quilting, and they wonder why they can't do it as well, why they're not as competent, because they're very competent, you know, at sewing normal things. And it can be really disappointing to realize that you're a beginner again. So you are a beginner. Be kind to yourself. You know, as soon as you're lowering those feed dogs, it is not the same as regular sewing. It will feel completely different, and it does take time and it does take practice. So go easy on yourself, and also always look for the positives. Always look for all the little improvements that you make over time. Okay, so that was the second observation. Another thing that was commented on by one of our participants was that she had done one letter and then she had paused because she was getting pain, arthritic pain in her wrists and her hands. And it does put quite a lot of strain on your hands. So if you suffer from arthritis, you might be interested in purchasing one of these. Now, this one is by Brother, and it's called a Brother Grip, I think, a quilting grip. They're also known as quilting halos. It's the same device, it's just a different brand. This one's actually listed in my Amazon storefront if you wanted to have a look at it, and I think Tracy's probably got the link for that somewhere as well. You can see on the underneath it's got like a rubber grip just here, runs all the way around, and you would put that on top of your quilt sandwich and have your darning foot obviously working in this area here, and you would hold it like this. And so you would be pushing down just ever so slightly. You don't have to push down a lot, just to hold it in place, and then moving it around like that. It does feel different to holding the fabric down, and so if you're used to free motion quilting with your hands, it's going to take a little bit of adjustment, but actually not as much as you think. So if you do have hand pain for any reason, be it arthritis, fibromyalgia, something like that, maybe it might be worth investing in one of these to have a go, because it just takes less pressure or strain on your hands and your wrists. The quilting halo, I think, is really expensive, and Benina do one which is incredibly expensive. But this brother one, I think, is about, I'm going to say £16. It's a lot cheaper. Oh, £20. I'm having sign language from Tracy there. £20. So it's about that, £22. So yeah, it's definitely a lot different to the higher priced ones. And it's worth trying if you're having that issue. Okay. Let's go on now to some of the specific questions that came in. So Sandy said, she said, I do not have thick thread. She said, is it possible for me to go over the outline of the lettering a second time to make it stand out? Yes, absolutely, you can do that. Alternatively, you might find on your machine, and the vast majority of machines have this particular stitch pattern. I refer to it as a triple stitch. It's the stitch that goes forwards, backwards, forwards, forwards, backwards, forwards, and so on. So what it's doing is effectively creating a stitch with thread that is 3 layers thick. And so you end up getting a much thicker line of stitching. It's a utilitarian stitch, so you will generally find it on even the most basic of machines, and it's a good one to have. The only thing to watch out for if you're using that with the thinner thread is to keep an eye on where you are in the stitch pattern, so forwards, backwards, forwards, before you make a turn. So if you're turning a corner or you're turning a curve, only pivot when the needle has completed the forwards, backwards, forwards, and then pivot. Because if you pivot when it's done its first one forward and then pivot, it's going to go backwards, and it's not going to be covering that previous stitch. It's going to be kind of going somewhere else and making your line look a bit jagged. But absolutely, I've done that before. I've got a feeling I might have done that on this one. Certainly did it on the one before I made that one. So absolutely, you can do that. Okay, sticking with thread weight, Mary and Sylvie wondered why I wouldn't use the 12 weight thread instead of going around each pebble. Sorry, they wondered, yeah, why I wouldn't use the 12 weight thread for the pebbles instead of switching to the 50 weight and going around 3 times. Now, you absolutely can use whatever weight of thread you want for the different parts of this. And I would actually encourage you to experiment with the different thread weights you have. Now, the particular reasoning for my choice of doing that was that when you're using that thick thread around the outside, you want that to be a really strong boundary line that you then work towards. If you're using the same thick thread to do the pebbles, when we do pebbles, you have to travel on your original line to get to the next place when you're going to be making the next pebble, and so on. And so at some points during your pebbles, you are going to have some areas with 2 layers of thread. It's just going to happen. It's inevitable, even if you're not making the whole circle darker by layering it up with more and more circles going around. And so what you would end up with is you would have these clumped areas that were thicker where you were traveling to the different parts to make your different pebbles, and they would generally be through the middle, and it would look really heavy, you know, in that area. And then the area you wanted to look heavy on the outline wouldn't. All right, it would kind of not recess, it would just kind of go into the background more than that one that we've just doubled up on through the middle. So it just would kind of make your overall look not look as pretty. You don't get that so much if you use a thinner thread and then go through over 2 or 3 times. You don't have that kind of thickness forming in the center. So that's one of the reasons that I would do that. Let's have a look. I had another thing down here. Yeah, so yeah, the other reason that I gave a bit later on was the fact that when you're using thick thread, you would normally lengthen your stitch slightly to make that thick thread be able to make those turns in sort of the close space that it's doing. So the shorter the stitch length, the harder it is for those that thread that is thicker to turn it to form the stitches. And so your stitches won't look as nice if they're smaller. And obviously if you're doing the pebbles, they're quite small in places and they're circular, so they're curved. And so in order for your stitches to form nicely, it can be quite difficult to do that with the thicker thread, and you'll find it easier with a thinner thread. So that was another reason to do that. But as I said, do practice and experiment, because what I like may be different to what you like, and there's no right or wrongs. These are just opinions, and also it might depend on what you have available. I just want to show just 2. In fact, if we can now ask Tracy to switch the cameras. Just give me 2 ticks. Apparently my phone doesn't want to acknowledge that I want to swap the direction of it, so we may not be able to do that. Right, not going to be able to do that. Sorry, Tracy. Just switch to stick with the regular camera. Okay, apologies for that. I thought I was going to be able to switch over, but at the moment my camera is pointing upwards. You don't want to see my ceiling. You want to see what I've got in front of the camera. So we're going to do this a different way. So this was the pink one, and I can post some pictures up close of this in the Facebook group a bit later on. But this one, I used a 28 weight thread for the pebbles, which is a little bit thicker than that 50 weight that I've recommended and used for the blue ones that I've showed in the videos. And you can see kind of here what I'm talking about, where it goes thicker between these areas. Now, it's not as pronounced as it would be with a 12 weight, but you can certainly see it. It's a stronger on those pebbles on this one compared to on this one, where the 3 layers of the pebbles on this one actually look like they're the same thickness as that outer border. Okay. The other thing, whilst I'm holding this up really close to the camera, actually, to point out is that the pebbles go all the way to the border and they're touching it. So they kind of go on top of that border line a little bit to create the pebbles, and that kind of adds to that fullness of filling that area. Okay, so if you're struggling with that and your pebbles are kind of like sitting inside and there's a gap between your pebbles and the border, then you might get a slightly nicer finish if you can make them go all the way to the border. Okay. Thanks. All right, let's move on to the next question. So Susan asked a question and she said, how many stitches to the inch do you recommend? Now, the stitches to the inch measurement isn't one that I generally use, and I've got a feeling, and any long armers here can correct me if I'm wrong, but I've got a feeling it's one that is used a lot for long arm. It's either that or it's an American thing, because it's not something that I generally use over here in Britain. So anybody who knows any different, please correct me. But my machine will just measure the actual length of the stitch. So When in the videos you heard me saying it's 2.5, that is 2.5 millimeters. Now, obviously, over here in England, we deal with the metric system, but we also happily deal with the imperial system. So we kind of work with both. Now, normally for walking foot quilting, I would lengthen my stitch to around 3 to 4, depending on what I'm quilting and the look that I wanted. But in this application, I think I mentioned in the video, when we're stitching those small letters with those tight curves, I left it at 2.5 deliberately so that we get that nice curve happening, and it coped really well with it. Now, how that translates into inches, basically 2.5 millimeters is slightly less than 1/8 of an inch. So I'm guessing it would be about 10 stitches, 10 stitches per inch. Okay, that would be my guess. So hopefully that does answer the question properly. And like I say, if anybody knows any different, you can let me know. Okay, Miriam wondered why her work was so puckered. So she had popped a photo into the Facebook group, I think. And she had gotten to the stage where she'd done her word outline and she had filled it in with the pebbles, and all the excess fabric around the outside was puckered quite badly. There was a lot of excess there. And there's various reasons for that. The main reason is that the outside area hadn't been quilted yet. And obviously, once it is quilted, it will shrink down in much the same way as your quilted word had. It may not shrink down as much depending on how densely you quilt the surrounding area. And that is because the pebbles design is very, very dense, and so it shrinks in a lot. It takes up a lot of space in the fabric, and therefore it kind of makes it shrink in more. So that's probably the main reason why she's saying it. And in fact, it was, because when she went and quilted it, and we saw a picture afterwards, it all looks beautifully flat. There are other things that can kind of accentuate that problem. And when I was making this one, I had quite a lot of excess puckering until I say puckering, just excess fabric until I had quilted around here. And I think it was exacerbated by the fact that I used 2 layers of batting in this one, because it's a mug rug and I wanted it to be kind of thicker and not so flimsy. So I used 2 layers, and that causes a bit more of an issue sometimes because you've got that excess of batting in there. Okay, now we generally would add more quilting into our projects anyway, because we're quilters and we love quilting. But if for any reason you did not want to add quilting in around there, this may not be the perfect way to do this. You may want to, do this, I don't know, by using an embroidery hoop where your fabric is going to be held much tauter than it is when we're doing free motion quilting, because that will hopefully alleviate the issue. Again, you could stabilize fabric and things like that, but that's a whole different kind of thing. And like I say, normally we would put extra quilting around the outside. Okay, let's move on. So Connie said, she said, I loved the quilting with words so much that I joined the Quilt Hive. She said, did I misunderstand that the tumbling spools pattern was a bonus? She absolutely hasn't misunderstood. It is absolutely included for Quilt Hive members, but Quilt Hive members won't find those bonuses in the pink version of the course. Now, I don't know if you were here on Friday night when I showed you inside the portal, the course access portal way, the bit that you click on to get to the course material. For the free class, it's bright pink. For Quilt Hive members, it's blue. All right, so if you have signed up to both, then you're going to have both in your My Courses area. If you want to get the bonuses, you need to go and click that blue one. Okay, so that's where all the bonuses are. It's a boring technical reason as to why there's 2 in there. It just means on Tuesday when I cancel it down, so it's not available for free, it means it doesn't disappear for all my Quilt Hive members, basically. So yeah, so if you have joined Quilt Hive, you need to go to the blue version in your My Courses area. Okay. Next technical question that came in was from Mandy, and she wanted to check what thread I was using in the bobbin when I was stitching the outline in the 12 weight Aurifil. Now I was using 50 weight in the bobbin. So I was using this one in the bobbin, and I was using, oh, it's disappeared, the thicker one, which is the 12 weight, in the top. Now, 50 weight was fine. It's all I had in that colour. Ideally, Aurifil tell you to use a 40 weight in the bobbin if you're using a 12 weight in the top. I didn't have it in that colour. 50 weight performs absolutely fine. The important thing is to have a thinner thread in the bobbin compared to what you've got in the top if you're using that very thick thread on the top. The thick thread won't go through your bobbin tension easily, and it will cause problems. So that's why we would have that thinner thread in the bottom. Now, every manufacturer will have different specifications for the thread that they have, so it's definitely worth checking with them as to what they recommend. Okay, Joanna asked if stitch and tear was the same as tearaway stabilizer. Yes, I think so. I'd imagine that's just a brand name, stitch and tear. So it sounds like the same product. Okay. All right. One of these this next question just came in just before we went live. So it's from Sandy, and she said, I kind of got frustrated. My pebbles looked like jagged rocks. There is a slider underneath the material, but it seems my pebbles don't want to be round. I will keep trying, but I figured I'd post this now. This is my first time trying to do any of this. She says, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. What is the stitch length? So there's quite a few things there. So the first response is, well, the first response is don't worry about having rocks. Rocks are totally fine. They rock. So don't worry about not having circular pebbles. It's all a learning process. It's absolutely fine. And actually, if you go into the Facebook group and see what Sandy's done since posting that, because again, she just put in another photo where she completed it and it looked great and really effective. So it doesn't always have to be exactly how you're aiming for to get a good result. So that's the first thing. Second thing, so stitch length. So if you are brand new to free motion quilting, it does not matter what you set your stitch length to on your machine. Your machine will not do anything to help you get that stitch length once you have dropped the feed dogs. The feed dogs have dropped. There's no connection between them and the fabric. The machine will those feed dogs will carry on moving as if they were doing whatever length you'd set it to, but they're not coming into contact with your fabric, and therefore they're not doing anything. What we do is we control that length by how fast we move our hands, so the fabric, compared to how fast our needle is going up and down, i.e. how much pressure we're putting on the foot pedal. Now, later on in the conversation, I found out she wasn't using the foot pedal. She was using a start-stop button. Now, it's something that I generally advise against using the start-stop button when you are free motion quilting, because by using the start-stop button, you have to take your hand off of the fabric and touch the stop button for it to stop. And so what that does is that you are inadvertently slowing down your hands before your needle has had a chance to slow down or stop, right? So it's still going up and down, and you, having taken a hand off of your fabric, you will have probably stopped moving your fabric. And so what happens is you get these really tiny stitches on the spot. So that's the reason I don't recommend using a start-stop button if at all possible. Now, I know it's not always possible. If you have pain in your legs, pain in your feet, other issues with your feet, can't use the foot pedal, then that is going to be your only option. That's fine. And there may be machines that have other functions in it that can help you to do that. But that's just something to say. Now, the other part of that was that she said she was having trouble moving the fabric sandwich. Now, generally, there are two reasons we find that people have issues with that. And the first one is that a lot of beginners will be pushing down really hard with their hands because they're tense, right? And so pushing down hard with their hands means that then it's not easy to get that sandwich gliding along, correct? You need to be pushing along with your hands, not down. Okay, so do think about, where that pressure is going when you're working on that. The second cause of this can be to do with how low your presser foot is when the presser foot is lowered. So your darning foot, when it's in the lowered position, is there enough room between it and the table for your quilt sandwich to move? All right, there should be, in order to be able to work effectively and to quilt effectively. If there isn't, it means that there's too much pressure being applied down through the darning foot for you to be able to move it. It might be you've got a really thick wadding that you're using or something like that. Now, on some machines, you can reduce the foot pressure. There may be a dial on the side of the machine. There may be some sort of digital thing in the computer to do that. And you want to reduce the pressure so that the gap between the sandwich, the quilt sandwich, and your press foot gets a little bit bigger. All right, so you want to see it rise up ever so slightly. Now, some darning feet have a manual adjustment on them, so it might be like a little screw on there that you can actually adjust, and it will raise up and down, and so that you can do that manually. Okay. All right, now there's some generic questions that I want to address. So what was the hashtag to use on Instagram? So the hashtag, if you're on Instagram and you want to share your pictures, the hashtag is hashtag quilted word QAL. Okay, if you are sharing, please do tag me. I'm at the Crafty Nomad Fleet on Instagram. I think Tracy's got a link to my Instagram page that she might drop into the chat now. If you're not following along yet, please do. It'd be lovely to have you following along. Okay, the next question was when do you have access to? This did change slightly. So we had originally said Monday and been quite vague about when it was on Monday. And so to nail it down and be very specific, it will be disappearing at 9 a.m. on Tuesday the 11th. Okay, so Tuesday the 11th, 9 a.m. It means everybody gets access to it for most of Monday. So hopefully that will be helpful. This particular recording, so the recording of this live, I'm going to be putting into the portal in that top part. So even if you miss that kind of after the 9 a.m. on Tuesday, that part will still be available for you to watch. Okay, so you'll be able to watch that if you need to. Next questions are to do with Quilt Hive itself. One of the things that came in was, is there a minimum term for signing up to Quilt Hive? Okay, this is just only based on which pricing plan you opt for. So if you were to go for a monthly payment plan, then your minimum term is the month. Okay, so if you opted for a quarterly payment, then it would be 3 months, and then you would obviously could cancel and then not have to join, not have to be a part. So that's the minimum term. You can cancel at any time, and you'll have access until whenever your next payment was due. Okay, you can do all of that from inside the portal and control all of that yourself. The next question is, what is included in the Quilt Hive membership? Well, currently we have 35 classes available to members to watch on lots of different topics, from trapunto to free motion quilting to walking foot quilting designs, improv patchwork. Gosh, there are so many, so do go and check those out if you're interested. There is a new class added each month, and we also have a really lovely Zoom session once a month. Sometimes they're largely Q&A kind of things, a bit like what we've just done. Sometimes we have an interview with another person from the quilt industry. So it could be a designer, a teacher, a long arm quilter, and they're really fun and interesting to listen to different people's perspectives and their stories of where they've kind of come from and what they like to design, etc. So that's a really nice element to it. We also sometimes have like a sew along. So normally Christmas time, I will do a fun make and take, and that's generally a slightly longer Zoom session, and we will actually all make along at the same time, which is quite fun. And then finally, the other thing included in it is a lovely supportive Facebook group. Now, it's different to the one you've been in for this. It's a kind of an exclusive one just for people that are on the paid courses, but that's also another lovely place. Okay, so that's all the questions that I have got down here. I'm just looking up there and Tracy had disappeared from my view, but she's back now, and hopefully she'll be able to come on with the microphone and tell me if there are some more questions that have come up whilst I've been chatting.
Yes, there are. Sorry, I disappeared. My dog was chewing a plastic bottle incredibly loudly in the background, and I had to quickly chuck her out the room. Right, back to professionalism. We do have a couple of questions. So Denise has had an issue with her tension. So she said, how do I prevent loops on the top of the quilt or the bottom? I think it may be to do with tension, but I'm not sure how to correct it. Thanks.
Yes, okay. I am just looking over here to see if I can quickly grab something. And it's disappeared and it's not there, which is not very helpful. No, it's not there either. Okay. So yes, so tension is a really, really important thing to get to grips with for any sewist. Okay. Now, when I used to teach beginner classes, the one of the very first things that I would teach in the getting to know your sewing machine was tension, because I have come across quilters or just sewists, anyone who's sewn, that have maybe sewn for 30 years and they don't touch the tension disc. They are petrified of touching that tension disc. Okay. And my first thing is to tell you to get really friendly with that tension disc and that tension dial. Okay, get to know it. It might run from 1 through to 9. It might run from, I've had one machine was -3 to +3. You know, it could have any kind of spectrum on there. But grab a quilt sandwich and turn the dial to 0, run a line of stitches. Turn the dial to 1, run a line of stitches, and work your way through all of the numbers that are on your dial and run a line of stitches for each one. And you are going to see straight away what the difference is between those tensions. Okay. So 0 is effectively no tension, right? So that's effectively your tension discs haven't come together at all, and there's no tension on the thread that's coming through. Right through to 9 on most machines, the top one, which is the tightest amount of tension. So the tension discs are really being forced together strongly and not really allowing that thread that's coming through the top there to flow through very easily. So how that translates into tension stitches on your machine is that if you've had it set down at 1, it's come really loose, all right? And you will probably be able to grab one of those threads and just pull it straight out. And what will happen is, I always have to get this right because I have to actually physically do this and look at the picture in the book. But you will be able to see the threads, basically. You'll be able to see the top thread through on the back, I think, when it's low. And so you'll be able to pull your bobbin thread straight out without any kind of issues. And it'll be the opposite when you go up to the tight end. You'll probably be able to see dots of the bobbin thread up on the top, okay? And it's so tight, it's going to pucker and make everything pucker. So if you're getting loops, did you say you're getting loops on the top? I've lost the comment now.
Okay, it says loops. I think she said top.
Oh, all the bottom.
On the top or the bottom.
Okay. I mean, really, I would be running through that tension test. All right. That would be the very first thing I would be doing to see whether it's too tight or too loose, because invariably you would have either all the loops on the back or all the loops on the top. It would be very unusual to have loops on bottom and the top. So I'd be running through that to find out the perfect tension. Other things, though, that can cause an issue that you might think are tension quite often isn't. It's to do with threading. All right, so I would rethread the machine top and bottom, and I would also be looking at your manual, okay, because there's extra thread guides that people often miss. And again, I've had really experienced quilters that almost always miss that last thread guide, which is just at the top of the needle and means that the thread comes parallel to the needle. And it just helps have a lovely stitch formation. And if you miss it, it's not going to be the end of the world, but you'll get a better finish if you have it going through them. So those are the things that I would be running through really, Denise. First is really the tension test is kind of key, and when you do that tension test and you've kind of decided on which line is giving you the best balance, so you can't see the top or bottom thread on the top or the bottom on the wrong side, quite often, by the way, it's a good idea to have different color top and bottom so that you can actually see that more clearly when you're doing a tension test. Once you've done that, I would then be switching the colors to the same color, and I would do some curves, all right, with your free motion, just to see, because quite often, oh, excuse me, quite often, if you're going too fast, you can have again some looping, some eyelashing appear, and it's normally on the back, okay, and that's if you're going really too fast. So just slow down and see if that helps. Okay, hopefully that's given you a few things to try and troubleshoot and do that. What was the next question, Tracy?
The next question has come from Virginia, and she says, is this alphabet available? And I think what she's meaning is the alphabet that the font that you, I think, have the Quilt Hive members as a bonus.
Yeah, that's okay. I mean, I'm happy to tell them what the font is, but the font is Lobster, and it's a nice chunky one. So yeah, that's the font. Okay.
And then we've got another one from Yvonne. And it says, is the first class still available? I think perhaps she means the first live still available.
Yeah. So the first live session, yes, that is still available. It's in the portal. If you go log into the portal, into the Quilted Words class, in the top welcome session, you'll see the recording of the live session is in there, and that's where I'm going to put this one as well.
Okay, brilliant. And one last question, which has actually come from two separate people. Sue mentioned about if a slider helps with drag when doing free motion, but Christina's also just popped a longer question in that says, I haven't used a slider sheet, but I do have one. I can't get my head around how the hole stays over the needle plate and doesn't move around with the fabric. Thanks, Jo. Another great session.
Okay, cool. So we're referring to these. Okay, this is what people are talking about when they're talking about a slider. It's one of the brands is called Supreme Slider, and other ones will just be referred to as a slider because I think that's a trademarked name. But essentially what they are is a piece of silicone, okay, like this. And this is a small one. You can get bigger ones than this. They're quite expensive, and this was, I didn't want to spend a lot of money when I was first doing it because I didn't know if it was going to make a difference, and I really wish I'd bought the bigger one now. If you have a very large quilting extension table for your machine, or you have your machine sit into a cabinet, then I would buy the biggest one that you can afford. This one, I'd say, is fine, but it's it could be bigger. The way that they stick to the table is that the underside is pink. Can you see it compared to the white? It's like a pink color. It's a different type of material. So this is kind of sticky kind of rubber on the underside, and it sticks to the bottom, and that's why it won't move about. Now, some of the cheaper options don't have that, all right, and they will move around, and you're going to have to tape it in place, really, is the only way to get it to stay where it is. But the Supreme Slider brand will have this kind of pink surface on the underside that sticks to the table, and they will fur up. Okay, so over time they will get little bits of thread and lint kind of attached to them, and therefore they will stop sticking. All you need to do is to go run under a tap and sort of rub off any of that lint, and then just dry it off, and it will stick again perfectly well. I think the first part of the question was whether they are good. They are amazing. These are game changers as far as I'm concerned. It was worth every penny I spent on it. It was so funny when I was stitching this the other day. I forgot to put it on when I was doing the letter D, and I was getting quite frustrated. I was thinking, why isn't it moving? Oh yeah, I didn't put the size sheet on. So it made a massive difference when I did the next part, and I had remembered to put this on. So yes, they are a game changer. They will make things slide easier. It is so weird because you think, well, how is it much different? And it just is. It just slides so much easier against this surface compared to the surface of the table. So yeah, definitely worth investing in if your budget stretches to it. Do we have any more questions or comments, Tracy, that I have missed?
No, not yet, unless anyone wants to pop one in the meantime.
Okay, that's okay. I've got a few more things down here, so I'm going to carry on working through these, and you can tell me in a little while if we've got any more questions. Great. Okay, so I mentioned a few things there about Quilt Hive. I know that there are quite a lot of you that have already chosen to sign up to Quilt Hive, and it's been so lovely to welcome you into the membership. For those of you still on the fence, just remember that code expires on the 16th of June, which I think is next Friday. I think it's next Friday. Yeah, I'm getting a nod from from Tracy. I think Tracy put the link in there for you, and as I said, you've had that come through on your emails anyway. If you do have any questions about Quilt Hive, please let me know in the comments. The next class that's running that is outside of Quilt Hive, so kind of a standalone class, is the Sunset at Sea class. There we go, look. I can do that like that. And that one teaches improv curves, inset shapes, and porthole windows. So if those are any kind of techniques that you are interested in, then you may want to get your name onto the wait list for that class. Like I said, it's a standalone class. There will be some live sessions to it. We'll run them in Zoom, but they will be very similar to the YouTube, where any questions can be asked or answered in there. So that's going to be, I think, in July. I need to make sure I've got all my ducks in a row before that one gets launched. But we're looking at July, August time for that one. Okay, the next thing is just to make sure that you are on my newsletter list if you want to be, so that you can keep in touch with any other fun sew-alongs that are coming up. And I think Tracy's got the links for those as well. And again, they will be in the text underneath this video on YouTube. Okay, now let's see how we're doing for time. We're doing okay. I would like to show you some of the makes that were made and shared in our Facebook group. So I'm going to pop over there and just share my screen with you to show you, because they have been brilliant. Let me find the right screen.
Yep. Just while we're switching over, Jo,
Yeah.
June the 16th is a Sunday, not the Friday.
Okay, there we go, June 16th, and thank you. That's brilliant. Okay, let's just refresh this. As it's been a little while. Okay, it went a bit crazy in terms of lots of pictures being posted in the last hour or so. So let's have a look at what's in there. So Miriam, Miriam says, my finished quilted word. Thank you for this class and all the help and encouragement. Now this was Miriam, who was struggling with the puckering, and can you see how there's literally no puckering around there at all in this finished one? So it looks great. This was this was her first, this is the sew. All right, so this is the same piece here, and this one obviously is without the quilting around it, and she wasn't very kind to herself. She said, what a mess. So yeah, it was actually great. All right, and so I think, you know, lots of lovely comments in there, which is really important. What she saw as a mess, I did not see as a mess. So I saw some really well formed pebbles in there. I saw that her stitching was perfectly within that outline. You know, she didn't go over her outline once, and she had managed to do a really beautiful dense pattern inside the word sewed, and so inside that outline. And so it was very clear what it was saying. And so I just think it's really important to focus on the positives. All right, like I said, it might not be what you expected it to be initially, but look at all those positive things about it. And this is a really beautiful piece that she has made. So that is Miriam's. And then Jamie has made this, and she's going to turn this into a notebook cover for one of her quilting buddies, which is lovely. And she used metallic thread for extra pizzazz. Now, metallic thread is not easy to work with all the time, and so that was a really brave thing to do, and it's turned out perfectly. So looks really good there. Well done. Michelle has made a hoop, and she says, I used the thread inside the S, I used variegated thread, but I didn't like it. So I've gone over with the red. She said outline was not thick enough, so free motioned over the outline again. She says, not perfect, but I'm happy with my first go. So let's have a look at this. So we can see that that's got a little bit of that orange showing, but she's gone over it in the red to kind of disguise it just there. Really lovely. And if we go over here, I think we can see that variegated thread in there. Now, variegated thread is always lovely, isn't it? And we always kind of gravitate to buying it when we see it in the fabric shop, because it's almost like going to a pick and mix sweetie shop, isn't it? And you see all the pretty variegated threads, and we want them all. And then what do we do with them? You know, they're kind of tricky to use. And actually, when I'm using variegated thread, I would normally choose a free motion pattern that didn't travel. All right, so it didn't travel over its original line like the pebbles do, because you sometimes get areas where you've got one color of the variegated thread going over a different color or a different color, and so it ends up muddying that color, and so you can't really see what type of color it is. Or you get issues where with what I call clumping, where you get like lots of orange pebbles in one place and then lots of yellow pebbles, and it just doesn't look as nice as if perhaps you would use a variegated thread to do an all over pattern like perhaps a meander, where you're going to get less of that clumping happening. And you certainly wouldn't get the muddying effect if it wasn't going, you know, traveling over itself again. So it's so hard though, because it's such a beautiful thread, and we kind of, like I say, we always gravitate towards it and want to use it, and then yeah, like I say, sometimes it doesn't quite work out the way we'd hoped. But your hoop looks fabulous, so you should be very proud of that. Sandy, so Sandy was the lady I was talking about struggling with the pushing down on the fabric sandwich and not being able to move it kind of easily enough. And this is her piece, and so she was posting different pictures at different times, and this was the finished one, and it looks amazing. So she's done a really good job. Well done, Sandy. Fabulous. Okay, let's go down. Oh, I haven't seen this one. This is the new one. So Denise, first time free motion quilting. Wow, well done. Practice was shaky. Any suggestions on how to improve are welcome. I kept getting loops. Oh, this might be Denise that we were just talking to about the loops. Okay, on the top, but kept going. Okay, but as I say, have a practice with the tension like we talked about, and see how you get on with that. But really nice dense fill. It's looking, you know, your formation there is looking really good. So well done. And this one is from Karen, and Karen's finished the hoop, looking really lovely in all those purples. Very nice. I love all this variation in the size of the pebbles. I think it looks really effective, having little ones next to the large ones. I just think it adds a sort of movement to it. It looks good. Now, Jo is one of our Quilt Hive members, and she had access to how to make the other words, and she'd made the word focus. And we've seen this quilted, I think, in one of the earlier sessions. And she's since finished it completely. She's added a facing to the back. Now, I love facing instead of binding. I think it's a really modern finish. It is a class in Quilt Hive, and she's obviously followed that to make that. So that's really lovely. Now, Virginia has posted these, and they look lovely. So she's done one with the pebbles up here, and she found that quite hard on her hands, I think. Yeah, physically hard. And so the next one, she did this lovely geometric line, sort of zigzag design, I think you'd call it. And I just think it's really effective. I'm wondering if I can get that bigger. No, but I'm really effective there. So it's more subtle, but I'm loving that design. So yeah, really, really lovely. I like that. And she has made that into a zip pouch. I think we might come across that in a little while. Let's see. There it is. I don't know why the colours come out different, but this is the greens that we were just looking at. So probably just a lighting issue just there, but that looks really nice. Nice use of that piece. Pam says, love this, putting free motion within a word, maybe a present idea for family. Yeah, great one to do for a name. I don't think anyone's done a name. I did obviously Dad's, but you know, really good way to sort of personalize something, especially for kids that like their names on, you know, cushions and bags and things like that. So yeah. There we go. And there's Denise's outline. Looks really effective. Denise, very neat. Very neat. Okay, and then Lauren says, I've started, but I don't like the fuzziness of the Aurifil wool blend, so we'll switch colours. Yeah, the wool blend, I think, is definitely better for hand stitching on that 12 weight wool blend. The cotton is probably better to use with the machine. Far less fuzzy than the wool. Okay, and Sarah has made, I don't know if it's a mat or a pot holder, but she's done it round with this beautiful curved binding on it, looking really effective and lovely and flat. So it looks really nice. Thank you for sharing. And we've got Suzanne's here, and she says, a new machine, haven't done free motion on it before. She said it does feel a bit different. Yeah, it takes a while to get used to a new machine, doesn't it? But that looks really lovely. Well done. And there's Miriam's. I think we've just seen Miriam's. And then this is Joanna's, and she's done it in all these lovely blues, and that looks really, really lovely. Very nice. And then Connie has got hers just there, looking lovely. Monique, she said, I just had time to do the outline. Don't have any heavier threads, so I used my 48 and went over it 3 times. There you go. That's very neat, going over it 3 times, Monique. Brilliant. And then you've got Suzanne's. She says it's done. She said, still not sure what I'm making it into. We'll add some type of other designs on either side, maybe some applique. So yeah, looking really effective. I love this fabric, by the way. This is fantastic. Brilliant. Mari had shared this today, and she had some good things she put down. So she said, all this is done. She said, finished project under consideration. She said, what did I learn? Using my machine's walking foot, using heavy thread weights for the outline, going around the pebble multiple times, new ways to create covers. Create to cover mistakes. That's right. So she'd had some issues up here, and she had decided what she was going to do with them. So yeah. So I'm loving all these blues. Really, really lovely. Well done. Marilyn, she said, I've been working on my word. She said, found that free motion aggravates my arthritis. Oh, yes. So this was Marilyn that had mentioned the arthritis. Yep. So I think it may be worth, Marilyn, having a look at a quilting grip or something like that might be helpful for you. But yeah, well done. And then Susan managed to do the S. She had lots of other things that she was working on, but she's done the S, and she was going to use it as a coaster, I think, because S is her initial. So that was quite nice. And this was me making the dad one. Fun little video. And then you've got Laura's just here with some fun sewing themed fabric just there. Beautiful. And she's bound that. So that one's all finished. And then Julie is one of our Quilt Hive members, and she has made the template up to say smile, and made this really lovely zipped pouch. And I think this is going to be for a friend, so that's nice. So that pattern for that pouch is actually part of Quilt Hive as well. So that's something that's in there. I think we've seen Susan's finished. And coming down to some of the early ones that came in. So Sally's Sally had got her outline ready. Sheila had done this, and she said, I'm really glad I decided to do a practice piece before attempting a project. I used a plain navy thread for the outline and a Gutermann sulky for the pebbles, which broke a couple of times. I didn't know about different threads requiring different needles until I watched the video today, but I decided to use what I have so I could have a go. My local quilt shop some distance away, but now I have a legitimate reason to go. Brilliant. Okay, so let's have a quick talk about the sulky thread that she mentioned there. So sulky from Gutermann, it's a partnership between the two brands, and I'm pretty sure it's probably a rayon. And rayon thread is much weaker than cotton or polyester thread, and it's more susceptible to break. It's particularly susceptible to moisture. But working at speed, it's going to be more likely to break. So slow down when you're stitching it, and take your time with it. It can give you amazing results, and it has a much far superior shine to cotton. So it can be really fun to use, but just slow down, make sure you've got the right size needle on, and it should go more smoothly. You should have better experience. Pebble practice, and this was from Suzanne. I think we've seen Suzanne's finished one, so yeah, looking lovely with your practice. I think we're almost down to the bottom now of these ones, so I think we've seen some of these already. This is Erin's. She said, thank you so much for offering this course. Here's my practice piece. Can't wait to try on more projects. And I've got a feeling Erin might be a brand new free motion quilter as well, from one of the earlier comments. So it's really, really lovely there. Well done, Erin. Got another one in process from Sarah. This was Erin's practice. Yeah, she said, I'm really enjoying this free class. I've used my walking foot before, but free motion quilting is entirely new to me. And so she's made this small piece here, practicing the pebbles before she then moved on to the sew. So what an amazing achievement. Well done, Erin. That's great. Jill from our Quilt Hive has posted her finished hoops. That's looking really lovely, Jill. I think we might be back to the beginning. So Julie was one of our members. So yeah, we've seen that one. Brilliant. Okay, so let's see if we can swap the share. And I just want to show you a couple more that are in the community page. So that one we've just seen in the Facebook group, but some of these we haven't seen. So this is from Celia, and she says, a bit scribbly, but I'm quite pleased. Thank you for the course. It's been fun. So yeah, really lovely. Well done. And Helen, I think that was the comment I read out at the beginning. So this is Helen's, and she's really enjoyed it. We had been too intimidated to have a go with free motion, and look at how that's turned out. So it's turned out really well. Helen should be really pleased with that. And we've got one from Michelle. So there's another one with the variegated thread. I think we've seen a couple with the variegated threads now. She said, here's my attempt at quilting a word. Practice at free motion continues to be necessary, but at least this project got me to my sewing machine. Thanks, Jo, for offering the class. Do you know, well, my response to this is practice at free motion is necessary for everybody. I mean, I know like really experienced free motion quilters, and they won't sit down and just start quilting on their project straight away. They will always sit down and get their hand back in. All right, it's really important to keep up that practice so that we kind of don't lose some of that kind of muscle memory. So absolutely, practice is always really important for everybody. So you've done a great job there. You should be really proud of yourself. And then this is Jodie from Hawaii. Really enjoyed the instructions and helpful tips. Another person said, this was my first attempt at free motion quilting. And she says, I'm kind of thinking it should be called herky-jerky motion. It's not at all. Look at this. It looks perfect. So, again, someone being really tough on themselves. So you need to be kinder to yourself. This is amazing. She says, although I struggled, this was great fun, and I now have much to practice. So yeah, I'm glad you're loving it, because actually it looks great, and I really hope that you do more and enjoy the process. So yeah, brilliant. And this is one we've already seen in the Facebook group. Lovely. And then we've got another one here from Linda. She says, pleased with my first attempt at quilting words and free motion pebbles. Didn't have correct threads, but played with a thicker variegated spool that was given to me a while back. Thanks, Jo, for lovely introduction to free motion quilting. Brilliant. Well done for trying something new. It looks really funky, actually, with those different colours. So it's funny, isn't it, how some variegated threads, it depends how long the spans of colour are within your variegated thread as to how effective it looks. This one, isn't muddy at all. We've got some really clear kind of different colors there, and actually it works really well. So yeah, that's fun. Okay, let's keep going. I think that might be all of the shares. Now we're down to the questions. So I'm going to stop the share and come back. and then we'll just have a moment to see from Tracy whether there's been any more questions.
No more questions, Jo.
No more questions. Okay, lovely. All right. Okay. All right. Well, we're going to get to the bit everyone's been waiting for now. We're going to get to the prize section. Okay. So I have randomly picked the prize winners this afternoon. And so, should we have a drum roll? We haven't got a drum roll, have we? We should have been prepared, Tracy, with like a proper drum roll.
Yeah, my nails on the desk aren't coming through.
No, it's not working, is that? That's all right. All right, well, we'll imagine a drum roll. And our $50 Morris Textiles voucher is going to Virginia Hodge. I'm hoping Tracy's going to put this into the chat box. She is. That's lovely. I am going to be making contact with all the winners by email, so don't worry. The £30 Purple Stitches voucher is going to Pam Headland. Now, the bundle of Crafty Nomad goodies, and I'm just going to hold up each one. So there's a whole host of different things here. We've got 2 little enamel pins. I'm giving 2 packs of the postcards, and these have got funny sayings. There's 6 postcards in each one with different sayings on them. So I'm going 2 packs of those. There's going to be a pack of the quilt care instructions postcards. There's 3 postcards in a pack. And then some greetings cards aimed at sewing buddies down there. So that little package of goodies is going to go to Suzanne Childs. I don't know if any of these people are here tonight. I don't know if you've seen the names, Tracy. Are they? Oh, that's cool. And then the final prize is a choice of 3 of my PDF patterns, and that is going to Jodie Hugh. So those are the 4 prize winners. Congratulations if you are one of them. I will be in touch with you via email to tell you how to get your prize. But yeah, thank you so much for joining in this class. It's been a really fun weekend for me to engage with so many new people and help lots of new people kind of get over those fears of free motion. We've literally scratched the surface of free motion quilting this weekend, but hopefully in some cases, I know from listening to the comments, it's been enough to get you over that hurdle, that barrier, you know, to just try. And so I really hope you're feeling encouraged to carry on with it, you know, and to just keep practicing and having fun with it, even if you're just doing the pebbles inside the words. You know, it's the practice. I actually think that's a really good one at helping you focus on the design, because it's small and in a sort of a confined space. It helps with your dexterity to actually control the movement. So yes, I do practice that. I'm looking briefly at these comments coming through. Lots of lovely messages to the winners. Lots of congratulations have come through. Lots of lovely thank yous, and a really good tip from Julie has just come through. She says, I have to remember to breathe when I do free motion quilting. I find myself holding my breath. And do you know what? That's a really good point. It's reminded me of something that was said earlier in the Facebook group about someone that was finding it quite physically difficult, and I reminded her to take breaks. All right, so really every 15 minutes you should be pausing, you know, and rolling your shoulders, stretching, standing up, and, you know, doing a little jig, just to loosen up all those muscles again, because we can get really tense and our shoulders just go up and up and up, you know, and then they're like touching our ears, you know. So really just relax, take the breaks, and treat your body well. So yeah, that's a really good thing to say. Thank you, Julie, for saying that. Lovely. Lots of nice thank yous. So that is really, really lovely to see. Thank you. I really, like I said, I really hope that it's been useful and beneficial to you to spend your time with me this weekend. I really appreciate you giving me your time this weekend. It's been quite an investment in your time to watch all those videos and try and have a go at doing it. So that's lovely. Please keep sharing pictures of your quilted words words, either on Instagram or in our Facebook group. Our Facebook group stays open, so you're absolutely welcome to stay a member of that. Every now and then I'll post little inspiration bits in there. People will post pictures of what they've been making in there, so it's always lovely to see those pictures. But thank you so much for coming, and hopefully I'll see you in the future in another class. Now, Tracy, do we have anything that I've forgotten to say?
No,
No.
I think that's everything.
Brilliant.
Yeah, hope to see everyone again.
Yeah, well, that would be really lovely. So yeah, so we would love to see you at another class in the future, or maybe in our Quilt Hive membership. But for now, I will say thank you and goodbye. So bye-bye for now.